Hi there, Cheryl here, and I have a wedding card I want to show you how I made today. And this is what we're going to need. We need some Whisper White cardstock, and I used the thick cardstock. We need a piece that's 7 by 10. That will be our card base. That's scored and folded at 5 inches. I have another piece that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. We'll be cutting our die, our lacy die here out from that. And I use, let me pull that out from the bottom of the pile here. I used this die that I found. It's Desire, I guess you'd say it that way. And I found this on Amazon. And it's really pretty. I wanted something I could make a pocket with, and you could do that, or do like I did and just cut it out from the card. But very, very pretty. As a matter of fact, I was at the show and one of the booths had a bunch of their dies there. I was very tempted to get some, but I restrained myself. I bought very little at the show, actually. Amazed myself. Okay, so that's also that's the Whisper White thick also. And then I have a piece of the silver foil paper. I hope that didn't catch the light wrong and blind you. But this is 6 by 4 3/4. And a piece of Balmy blue. It's just a little bit smaller than that. That's going to go behind that piece. And this is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. And then I just have a piece of leftover here from when I cut off, and it's 2 1/2 by I don't know, I guess it's by 11, but you don't need that much. We'll be cutting our little excuse me, our dove and the sentiment on the front. And for the doves, oh, I didn't show you the inside. Yeah, I did the inside on it, so I did this on the inside. So I have a dove and I have a nice sentiment there. And I used this dove and this dove. And if you do this, make sure you don't use this one by mistake, because it'll be facing the wrong way. Ask me how I know that. So I also have the dies set for that. And then I also use the Rose Wonder stamp set from Stampin' Up. It's retired now. So if you don't have it and you can't get your hands on one, there are ways around it. You use a different sentiment instead of doing like I did on the front here. And I have this, then that's embossed with the silver embossing powder. Use whatever sentiment you have or can find, and you can, instead of doing this little decorative border thing and all, you could just use a decorative tag stamp and maybe just go around the edge with a silver marker and get kind of the same effect. But I'm using this piece right here for the stamp. I'm using, let's see, Wedding Wishes. That will go in the center. And then on the inside, I'm using this sentiment right here. Wishing you a marriage made in heaven and a lifetime blessed by God. I thought that was so nice. So that's what I'm going to be using. I have a marker. It's one of the Stampin' Right markers, and this is one of the new colors, Balmy Blue, to go with the cardstock I'm using. On my sample card, I stacked up some dimensional dots, but this is one of the things I did buy at the show, and these are from Heartfelt Creations. They had a booth there, and let me get a pack of these out. Look how thick they are. They're nice, fat foam dots. So I'm going to be using those. And my VersaMark ink and my Embossing Buddy. I'll be using that for my embossing stuff. I also have silver embossing powder. I have a makeup sponge. This is 7/8 of an inch wide. It's sheer ribbon and it's a little bit shiny. It's the Offray brand. I believe I got this at Joann Fabrics. Using that. And the Nuvo Embellishment Mousse. This is going to give us our nice pearly look to our cardstock. And this is pure platinum. And basic gray ink. And oh, and my designer's Dries clear glue, which they come in bottles that look like this. I've just decanted it to a smaller bottle. And so let's get started on the card. Let me bring in the Balmy blue cardstock and my Nuvo Embellishment Mousse first. And I'm going to take I'm going to just put a little bit of water. I'm going to spritz just a little water in here to thin it down a little bit. If you would rather, you could take a little bit of that out to the side and thin it down. But when I'm done working with these embellishment mousses, I always give them a couple little spritzes anyway to keep them from drying out. And they are water soluble until they dry, so that won't hurt it in any way. So I've got that loaded on my sponge. I'm gonna dab that off because that's what I always do when I'm blending with sponges. And I'm just going to go over the whole card front with this, or the whole piece of Balmy blue with this. I'll pick up some more. And this will just give it a nice pearlized sheen to it. So I'm making my own pearlized paper. And you want to try to get it as smooth as possible, but it's really not all that important, because you're only going to get to see little bits of it at a time. So you see I've got that's getting that pearlized look on it. Okay, I think that's fine now. So I'll put that, I'm going to just set that aside a little bit here. I'm going to let that dry. You will want to wash your sponge out pretty quickly after you use this, because it will dry and make it kind of stiff. I'm cleaning my table up here, because of course I went off the edges. And before I put this away, I'll give it a couple little spritzes just to keep it in good shape. Okay. So next we'll do some stamping. I'll get my basic gray stamp pad here and my little strip of paper. And I've already got my dove mounted on the block. And I'm still using the old gray. This is the Archival stamping pad. The new one, the new gray is, I guess it's a dye-based ink. That's what it appears to be. But this is the old one. Again, nice stamp. There's my dove for there. And you know what, while I'm stamping, I might as well do the inside of the card. So let me peel that off. I'll put my other dove on my block and stamp that on the inside. Let's see. It's the only thing I don't like about rubber stamps. It's hard to know exactly how you're positioning them, but I think I got it all right. And yeah, that looks good to me. And then I'll also do the sentiment on the inside. When I mount my sentiments on my stamps, I like to line the stamp up with the edges of the stamp block, because I find I tend to line up the block rather than the stamp itself. So if I have that lined up, there's a good chance I'll have it nice. So that looks good. So we've got that done. And next thing I'll do is I'll show you how I do the dies. And darn it, I forgot to bring some of my tape over. I generally use the blue painter's tape. I think I have some. Oops. I hope that didn't scare you when that moved. Nope, I don't have any. Oh yeah, I do. Masking tape. Good old masking tape. So I use either the masking tape or the paint. I prefer the painter's tape to hold dies in place. And this is very sticky. So I just stick this on my clothing a couple times. And it picks up lint and cat hair and whatever else I've been into that day. And you see now, yeah. So I'll get the die out, maybe. Oh, there we go. There we go. It didn't want to come out of its package. And it has this outside border also. We're just going to use the inside. So I'm going to place this on my paper right where I want it. And then I'll use my tape. I'll put that on there. And I'm going to use my magnetic platform. But when I want to make sure that things don't move at all, I always use a little bit of tape. A lot of people use washi tape too, but I just stick with the basics. So I can get rid of that tape now. And we're done with our gray. So let me do the embossing part. So I have my VersaMark ink, and you notice I keep my Embossing Buddy right in that little well on the back, so I always remember. Always remember. You know what? I should show you how I colored the bird in. Let me do that. Okay. With my marker. I hope you can see this. I think it's close enough that you can see what I'm doing. With my marker, I'm just going to add a little bit of blue to it. I'm just going to add a little bit in here. A little bit on his tail. And it's alright if I'm going outside the lines because, well, it's going to get die cut. Okay, and then in right under the wing here, where there would be some shadow, I'll go in there just like that, and again like over the top here, and just I'm going to add just a little bit in the curls of the wings. Okay, so just very little of the blue, just a little touch of it. Let me hold that up closer so you can see what I've done there. Alright, and now I'm going to go back with my sponge and my embellishment mousse and pick a little bit of that up. I'm just going to add a little bit of that to the bird so it has a pearlized sheen to it. Okay, so you see that? See, that's going to be so pretty. Okay, now we'll do this. Let me make sure I got that good. So I'll stamp I've got my 2 stamps here, my Wedding Wishes and my thing. And I'm going to stamp the Wedding Wishes first. It's using the VersaMark ink. I'm going to stamp that right in the center here. Try to get as close to the center as possible. And then I'll stamp this one. And I can barely see the Wedding Wishes. So I think I got it good. You could emboss the one part, heat emboss the one part, and then do the next part. And that would probably be a lot better than the way I just did it. But in order to keep the video moving along, I did them both together and I lucked out, and that looks pretty good to me. So now I'm going to go away for a few seconds. I'm going to emboss this. I'm going to do all the die cutting, and we'll come back and start putting the card together. Okay, I got all the boring stuff done and out of the way. And I've die cut my little dove. I'm going to shape it a little bit just with my fingers. There's a little slit right here. I'm going to just bend that wing back a little bit. And then I'm just going to just gently round the body a little bit like this. So there's no need to have any special shaping tools. And I'll bend the tail back out so that it's all on the same plane, I guess you want to say. You may notice I cut the center out of my piece of foil because now I have this nice piece that I can use for another project. And I cut a piece of the ribbon off. I cut a yard off because we're going to make a double bow. So let's get things glued together here. So that's my piece of Balmy blue that we've pearlized. And I'll use this one here. And I'll just put glue on the back here, maybe. Maybe not. Alright, I've got this one as a backup. Let's see. There we go. Put glue all around there. All around the border. Around that border. And I'm not going to put anything in this design. This is a rather intricate design on this die. And you can bet I used my my die brush on this, and there were still a couple little bits that needed to be persuaded with the pokey tool. I see one there. Let's see, what have I got here handy? I have a stylus with a very small point. Let me see if I can poke that to the back. Alright, there we go. So that's glued down now. And I'm just going to go all around the edge here. Right around the edge. Oop. And I'll glue that to the foil. Center that. Okay. And now we'll do our ribbon. So I'm going to take my ribbon. I'm going to leave myself a good sized tail on one side. In fact, you know, I'm going to make a very long tail on this side. Yeah. I'm going to make a very long tail. It's probably about 10 inches long. And that's more than I need, really. I just wrap the ribbon once, then twice around my fingers. And bring this up through, so I have 2 loops. Now I have 2 loops on each of my fingers. I'll bring this up through the center, like so. Let me poke that end back through that side. I somehow got this backwards. Let me start over again. Alright, so I'm going to leave myself a nice long tail. We'll go once, twice, oops, excuse me. Okay. And it's going to be that way. It's just going to be that way. So I'm going to bring this up through, like so. Bring this piece to the back. There we go. And now I'm going to tie a knot in these 2 tails. Now, if nobody was watching, I'd hold one end in my mouth. But since y'all are watching, I'll do it. I'll be polite. Oh. Come on, come on. I messed up. Messed up again. What am I doing? You know what? I'm just going to make it a single bow. So, 1, time around. I just can't figure what I was doing wrong. Let me do this again. 1, 2. Okay, here we go. This is it. So I've got it wrapped around twice, around my fingers. I'm going to poke this down through to the back. Oh, get back on my finger. Bring it back up to the front. And then tie the 2 pieces together. This is a fork bow. That's what it's normally called. And I'm doing it on my fingers instead. And this is a lot easier if you have someone to help you with it. Okay, so there we go. Now I need to slide this off my fingers. And now I've got my little double bow. There. Straighten this little loop out here. And this will get attached to the front of our card. Need to tweak that a little bit so that when we put it down, our bow is like this. Alright, and I put that on a diagonal. So I want it off to the side here. I'm going to turn this over. Oh, I didn't tell you we need tape. We need some runner tape of some sort. And I put a couple lines of the tape about where my bow is going. My ribbons are going to come around the back. I want this one down pretty low. So I'll just wrap that around. And we'll trim off the excess here. And then this one will come up here. And I'm just sticking that down to the tape. I'll trim that off. And there we got our little bow right there. There. Now I also like to take a little bit of tape. I'm going to slide this down just a little bit. I'm going to put some tape right there behind it, just to make sure that stays in place. So there's our bow. And we'll get our card front. Make sure I'm putting it on the right side. And I'll turn that over, and I want to see if I can get this thing to work. Nah, I'm not going to bother. I'll just use this little one. And put glue all around that and right over the ribbon pieces. So those are held in very well. You don't want your ribbon going anywhere. And then we'll center that on the front of the card. And bring in my new little glue dots here. Let me close this up before this one gets dried in the little schnozzle. Okay. And I'll put my wedding wishes down. Put a couple of glue dots on those. Okay. Come on, paper. Clear it. Pull off. There we go. Should have done this ahead of time, shouldn't I? Alright. Position this right here. Our wedding wishes. And then we'll do the same with the dove. Is that a little crooked? Can I move that? Let me see. There, that's better. And we'll do the same with the dove. Put a couple of those little, well, they're not little, they're pretty big. Little dimensional stickers. Oh, this is quite fiddly doing this. Okay, I'm not thrilled with these. Guys, this is the first time I've used them. You know what? I'm just going to put some glue on there, because I'm done playing with those. I'm going to put glue on the back of them. Alright, I thought these were wonderful things. Like I said, I'm not thrilled with them. And I'll put my dove right here. I'll overlap the sentiment just a little bit. And there we have it. Our card is finished. Now, if you wanted to, you could also do the silver embossing on the inside of the card, on the dove and the sentiment. But I did not. So if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button down below. If you'd like to see more of my videos, then hit the subscribe button, and they'll start to pop up in that little column off to the right on YouTube. If you'd like to purchase any of the things I've used today from Stampin' Up, you can do that either through my Facebook page or my website, or my blog. Excuse me, I keep calling it a website. It's a blog. And well, you might want to check out my blog anyway, because I put things up there that I don't put anyplace else. So if I see sales or interesting things that just things you might be interested in, I put that up on my blog, so check it out. And y'all take care, stay safe, and happy stamping.